Miserable. 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 That is how Tonka Saul's feeling right about now. There's this thing called karma. And it's come around to Tonka and given him a slap in the face. Oh, man, I can't believe this much has occurred since my last Tonka Saul video. If you don't know who Tonka Saul is, or you don't know why I'm talking about this character, go check out my last video called Tonka Never Came, Tonka Saul, Tonka Lost. And you'll find out the whole reason behind why now Tonka Saul may be going to jail. Now, when I first heard this, I thought, oh, come on, man. Like, you know, I know his whole YouTube career is over, and I realize everybody hates him and doesn't believe anything he says anymore, but nobody's got anything on him just to send him to jail. But wait, there's more! It turns out, digging into why Tonka Saul didn't actually show up to the fight that he was scheduled to show up at, which was, let me correct myself, it was an MMA fight. I said boxing in the past, sorry. Like I said, I don't know a lot about this stuff. I just know he was a chicken shit who didn't show up for a fight that he constantly professed he wanted to partake in. He didn't show up, and it was recently found out that even the blood work he sent in wasn't actually his blood work. So people started looking into it more and more, like, why did he go this far to not show up and not do anything that he said he was going to do as far as this fight was concerned? And it turns out most likely one of the reasons why, and this was kind of released by Failure, who I gotta say, my heart goes out to. Failure, if you're listening right now, everyone go subscribe to the guy's channel. The poor dude was so screwed over by Tonka Saul, and I heard him yesterday give out a bunch of information that pretty much crushed everything for Tonka Saul. And that information was that most likely he did not show up to the fight because he is claiming benefits. And when I say benefits, I mean disability benefits. He's also been doing a little bit of tax work, if you will, with his taxes to get around paying them. And the reason all this comes together, you're like, well, how's that related to his fight that he was going to partake in with Andy Worski? Well, okay, let me see if I can make a very clear line and synopsis of how this happened. So if he were to partake in a fight, the fight is registered. It is, like I said, a legal fight that they had to send in blood work for, urine work for. They had to prove that they don't have hepatitis, AIDS, etc., etc. And then this fight would be declared in the state of Tennessee where it was going to be held, and it would go on his record because fights are recorded so that a person has a whatever an O record or ever, you know, fights, wins, losses. And it also shows that they're safe to fight. So if they get into other fights later that are official within boxing or MMA, they know the person they're fighting with isn't going to get infected with any kind of bloodborne diseases. So he didn't partake in this because then it would have taken away his disability benefits. That's why you always see, I guess, memes of him in a wheelchair. I never understood this. I remember one time Failure was confronted when talking about Tonka Saul. Is he really in a wheelchair? Because everybody jokes that he's an Indian in a wheelchair. That's how they portray him. He's not in a wheelchair. It's totally fake. But he claims benefits, which is why they always show him in a wheelchair, because he's claiming disability benefits. And I guess maybe that's how he claims it. He says he had some kind of wrestling injury. Remember, we talked about this. He supposedly was a professional wrestler, which it turned out to be little more than just him amateur wrestling, and, you know, like a local bar or a local bakery might move some tables and let him throw himself on the floor, and he would call that professional wrestling, which is, you know, it's backyard wrestling. It's VHS bullshit. Anyway, he could not partake in that because that would cancel out his disability benefits. Once it was reported officially in Tennessee that he was fighting, obviously you can't be a fighter and get benefits as having a disability at the same time. If you're of sound body and mind enough to partake in an MMA fight, you probably don't also need help from the government to pay your bills. So right away, he's going to be shown to be abusing the system, which you can't do this. Once it's found out that you're, running the system through a loop to get some kind of benefit that you don't deserve, that's already trouble. On top of it, it turns out what Failure let us know about yesterday was that he has his AdSense connected to his grandmother's bank account. Now, you're probably wondering, like, well, how's that a big deal? You may have, for example, I have my AdSense on my bigger channel running through my wife, and that's actually because you can't type in half-space katakana in Japan. You have to use kanji. And if I'm a foreigner with a foreign name in Japan, I have to use katakana to spell my name because there isn't kanji for the name Scott Ackerman. So I have to use my wife's name because she actually has kanji for her name. So that's a whole, writing semantics aspect in the form of Japanese, and that's why I run it through her. But he's running it through his grandmother because she has a non-profit religious organization that she supposedly runs. Now, what this exactly is, nobody really knows. It's supposedly some sort of religious education program that can write away the taxes. That means not only is he running a scam on disability benefits from the government, but he's also running a scam to not pay his taxes. Now, I have a little bit of background in taxes, okay? My mother is retired now, but she used to work for the IRS. Now, she was in the form of business taxes in that department, but she let me know that within residential and civil taxes, the big thing that they look for is, did you make a mistake? Did you just make an honest mistake? Or are you trying to fuck with the government? If you just made a mistake, almost always when the government finds it, they'll cut you a huge break. Like, quite frankly, they will honestly cut a huge portion of what you owe them. They'll be like, okay, you made a mistake, you meant to pay this much, you only paid this much, kind of pay this difference. We'll make it a little bit lower because we know we're suddenly dropping a huge bill on you. And that's if you cooperate with them. If you try not to cooperate with them, they'll try to collect the whole damn thing. Now, if they find out you're fucking with them, they go fully hard on you. And they will try to get you for every fucking thing you tried not to pay. Because they're pissed. They're pissed you've been trying to run them for some kind of game in the tax system. And then if you also decide not to work with them and not give them your books and everything that you've been burning as far as paperwork is concerned is hidden from them, they get even more furious and they will hit you with penalty after penalty after penalty to the point that you can end up in jail. You could especially end up in jail too if you're scamming the disability system. It's the equivalent to pulling insurance fraud. So can you end up in jail for that? Yeah, you either end up owing a ton of money or going to jail. So now you understand why he might actually end up in jail for everything he's been doing. The people who broke this whole story was a mixed bag. There was a guy named Zoom who literally called the DA of the state that Tonka lived in, if I've got this correct, and he socially engineered a way in which to talk to that guy and find out that this is illegal and that this person, first of all, almost everything Tonkasal's ever talked about is untrue. He supposedly ran like 2 businesses, owned all these cars. All of it's turned out to be fake. He's never been representing any kind of business. His name's not down for any enterprise. He's never been a CEO or president of any self-run company. It just gets deeper and deeper the more people dig. And you're probably wondering, like, what's all the big fuss? Like, why are people still so bent out of shape? Well, this is karma at work on the internet. If you fuck over 1 or 2 unknown people, they may be mad at you and you may lose some internet friends or clout. But when you fuck over an entire group that's connected to an even larger group, people tend to get pretty pissed. If you lie to their faces on top of that and turn out to be an incredible fraud, especially when you've been fronting that you're some kind of tough-ass fighter the whole time, people will tear you down. And that is what happens right now to Tonka. R.I.P. Rest in peace at Tonka. I don't see you recovering from this. I'm unsure, but as of right now, it seems as though he has deleted every single video on his channel. He's deleted his apology, and there seems to be some scheming going on. So we may see one more, I guess, last gasp before there's a final death rattle from the karma slammed, God smacked Tonka saw. Until next time, I'm Scott Ackerman. If you like what you saw here today, please think about subscribing. Comment in below what you think should happen to Tonka saw and what else I missed. I'm sure there's so much more that's come out. And please check out Failure's channel. The poor guy, man, he's been fucked so hard by Tonka saw. And he genuinely is a nice dude. I've talked to him online. Great guy. Check out Failure's channel if you can. Give him a hello from me. And until next time.